Hey everybody, it's me, Pam, Dragon Moon Creations. Welcome back to my channel. I haven't been on here in ages and ages. Months. It's been months. This is what happens to your craft table when you don't use it. It becomes a catch-all. This is what happens to my craft table. I don't know about yours. Guess who's here? Trippy is here. I've been having a heck of a year. The most recent disaster happened the weekend before last, and it involves my husband, as it usually does. But let me back up. I lost my mojo, and there was a time right before the holidays I get depressed, and then I can't come back in the craft room, and then it ends up I have the best of intentions, so I come back here and I get stuff out, and then I don't do anything, and then I shopped a little bit. I put stuff on, and I just piled it on the table. This is how high it is, you know. This I just got, I don't know, last week, whatever, whenever I could get out and it wasn't snowing. But, you know, and I'm saving my boxes, because I save boxes. I don't need to save any more boxes. This is microwave popcorn. This is cornflakes box. I don't need to save any more boxes. I have plenty of boxes. My Christmas present from my daughter's here. I have the screwdriver, my little plug-in screwdriver, rechargeable screwdriver here. I have my toolbox, which I had to use. I had a hammer and a very old flathead screwdriver here, which is what I had to chisel 3-inch thick ice off my front steps so I could get up and down my front steps so I could go shovel the walk. Trip's going to come in from the other side. He can't help himself. And I have this, it's going to be reversed, but I wanted to make sure that I could see what I could see. Anyway, I don't normally do this because it's reversed, and I didn't want it reversed, but it's reversed. That's why the Act 2 is backwards too. Anyway, and he's over here knocking over stuff. They were in here, it was like a playground to them this whole time. Okay, so the weekend of the January 5th and 6th, Saturday, my husband comes home and he'd had a cold and he didn't feel well. And he came home and he said, "You're going to have to help me take off my shoes because I can't get them on." So I did that. And I said, "Why?" He was panting like, and I said, "Why are you panting?" He said, I can't catch my breath." And I said, "Well, you were out, in the cold, and he'd gotten a cold from his friend." I always yell at him. I said, "You need to take more responsibility for your health, and don't go around people when they're sick." He's 76 years old, and anyway, that was really the beginning of the downfall here. And I'm just gonna lay in my mess. I'll clean it up in a little bit. I came back here to talk and clean up, but I couldn't get my camera adjusted right to where I could do it all at the same time. So anyway, he got worse Sunday. He said his chest, it hurt up under his rib and in his back, and I said, "Sounds like you may have pneumonia." And of course we got, Sunday, it was whenever it started snowing and it wouldn't stop, and Monday it wouldn't stop on January the 6th. And he would get better at night, he'd feel a little bit better, but as soon as he got up and walked around, my hair looks like crap. And my hair's so long, I haven't had a haircut in like 6 weeks, maybe 7. So I was forcing fluids on him. I thought, well, maybe it's something I can, I had antibiotics. So I started him on antibiotics on Monday. It moved on to Monday, but Sunday he didn't feel well, and and then I was worried, and we don't sleep in the same bedroom, so he's in a bedroom by himself. So anyway, Tuesday morning he got up And he said, I feel pretty good. So he got up and he sat in his chair. He hadn't been drinking caffeine, and so I mean, while I was sick those couple of days. So I gave him his water, and he said, I think I want to go take a shower. And I said, oh, okay, well, maybe he's turned a corner. So he goes in the shower, or goes in the bathroom, and I don't hear anything for a while. I give him about 10 or 15 minutes, brush your teeth and whatever. And I went to the door and I said, are you all right? And he said, I don't think so. So I said, I'm coming in. I went in. He didn't have any clothes on. He's sitting on the potty. And I said, are you using the bathroom? He said, no, I already did that. I said, what happened? He said, well, I got up to go to the medicine cabinet to get my pills. And he said, I got short of breath. He walked 4 feet and he got short of breath. He said, so I came back here. Usually it's the only place to sit down in the bathroom, right? And I said, okay, well, let me get you up. I got him up, got his robe on him, got his pants on him, his slippers, took him in, set him in the chair, and he was panting. Really shallow breathing. I said, can you take a deep breath? And he said, it's hard to take a deep breath and it hurts when I do. Can you see Trip's head right here? Trip is right here. And this is part of the gift from my daughter for my Christmas present. Anyway, I said, before, for 2 days I've been saying, do you want me to call the ambulance? I said, no way I could get out of the driveway because we had at that point like 9 or 10 inches and then it kept snowing and it just kept piling up. I said, I shoveled the walk, and I said, the driveway I started on, I said, but it's going to take me hours. I said, and the roads are horrible. I said, do you want me to call ambulance for transport? He said, yes. So they came in, they got him loaded up. We don't go to our local hospital. We don't like it. So we went to the next town over, and it wasn't too long, he called me. No, I called over to see if he'd been admitted, and she said, not yet, he's still in ER. So, okay, or ED, And so a little while later, the phone rang, and it was him. He said, well, my stay here isn't going to be very long. And I said, what's going on? And he said, well, I'm getting another ambulance. They're taking me to Morgantown, which is over an hour away. I think I've discussed Morgantown. Morgantown's halfway between where we live and Pittsburgh, kind of. So, but it's still in West Virginia. And so I said, what is wrong? And he said, well, they say I have a blood clot on my lungs. I said, a blood clot on your lungs? And he said, well, 2. I said, okay. I had never known anybody and dealt with a blood clot, which is called a pulmonary embolism. Now, I'd heard of it. I always thought an embolism was air, an air bubble in the bloodstream or something. I don't know why I thought that, and he said so. But they said they saw that, and it was immediately go to Morgantown. So he got another ambulance and got transported to Morgantown. That was Tuesday morning. Because the ambulance came for him between 9:30 and 10 o'clock, right around in there, to our home, and transported him. So it was Tuesday morning, early afternoon. I didn't hear from him. You know how it is. The roads were bad. I couldn't go. I told him, I said, I can't follow you. I can't go. And everything was closed down. Both of my kids were off work. And so he goes up. Later on, he borrows a phone. He left our house wearing underpants, a robe, and house slippers. No phone, no nothing. He didn't have his watch on. He had his wedding band on. And he called me. He borrowed somebody's phone. He says, well, I'm here and they're starting testing. Okay. All right. So I called up that evening. They said, yeah, we're still running tests, and he is in a room. We have him resting comfortably. He is in ICU. I said, okay. And at that point, at that time, they never discussed with me the seriousness of his situation. Then I called later, and they said tomorrow they wanted to do some more testing. They discussed the clot busting medication, and at this point, they said he said, they asked me, do you know anything about human anatomy? And I said, yeah, just talk, and I'll stop you and ask for an explanation if I need one. And so they were explaining it to me, and the way they said he has a clot at your lungs where, it goes down here, and then the big branches of your lungs, and then it branches off into different ones. The way they described it, right at the opening to the big, I don't know if they're the bronchi, the bronchioles, I don't know what I know it's something. And they said he has one on each side, one in each one of them. And I'm thinking, okay, a blood clot on each side. And I learned so much the next day. Apparently, overnight, he took, on Tuesday night, between Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, he took a huge turn for the worse. And I called up to check. You have to call to check. You can't, because ICU, there's no phone. What I learned later was there's ICU, which is usually for surgical patients. And then there's an MICU, which is just medical. But their MICU was overflowing up into ICU. So, but they had an MICU nurse with him. She just transferred over. She had a couple of patients in that unit. But I'm talking to a PA. Her name was Gina. And she said, your husband's situation has worsened. We have had to put him on a ventilator. We have him in a medically induced coma, and his heart is under a lot of stress. And she was talking about procedure, all the medicines they had him on to support his heart, and what they were going to give him, the clot buster to see if they could break up the clot. And she's saying, but his situation is serious. And I just said, Gina, was that your name? And she said, yes. I said, Gina, is my husband dying? And she said, he's not doing well. And if I were you, I would come. Okay, heard those words before. Not with him, with my mother. And the roads were crappy, and I just put out a group text with me and my kids have a text, we have a group, and I said, I need help in capital letters with an exclamation point. My son called me. Of course, he was at a plant. He's trying to get a plant back on his feet. Anyway, it's a long story, but they were only half running because the snow was so bad, and my daughter was stuck up. She lives up a hollow. It's West Virginia. It's paved, but they hadn't plowed it because it was such an emergency situation with all the snow. She couldn't get out, and he texted her. He said, Mel, I got this. And he called me, and I told him what was going on. He said, I'll be there just as soon as I can. I said, okay, I got to go shovel out some more. I need to try to get out, be able to walk out without walking in a foot of snow. So I did that. Of course, had to call my sister, I said, if I'm not home by 6 o'clock, can you come feed the cats? And, it was a whole big thing, when you have pets. And all the way up there, I was worried if I was going to make it. We got up there, You have to go through security. We get up there, and my God, what I walked into. I had seen my mother after 2 open heart surgeries. I did not expect what I saw when I looked at my husband. He was laying there, the tube, he was out. The tube down him. I'd seen, my mother had the tube in her, intubated. And there must have been 8 different IV machines beeping and running in him. I about hit the floor. My son, I remember him grabbing my arm, and I started to cry, and I said, no, I can't cry now, because if I started, I wouldn't stop. And I just said, oh my God, that's what I said. They said, he's breathing, we're just assisting him, he can still breathe, but we're just, the intubation is just to assist him, help him. We're giving him 3 different medications to assist his heart, to keep it beating. And what they didn't tell me, I didn't find out till later, was before I got there, and I think the reason she said, if I were you, I'd come, was because he went into AFib, and they had the crash cart outside his room, waiting for him to code. But he didn't. And we stayed there. The attending, she came by and explained to us, to me, that he's very, very sick, and told me everything they were doing to assist him with the breathing, the assistant to keep his heart from, apparently when you get blood clots in your lungs, it puts so much stress on your heart. One side, his right side of his heart had enlarged, and they were giving him meds to assist his heart. And she was saying, she said a lot. She said, we're going to give him the clot-busting medication. She's a little foreign doctor, but that's okay, they're usually pretty good. And she said, we're giving him the clot buster to see if it can break up the clot, because there's a procedure that we can do to go in there and get all the clot out of his lungs, and that will take all the pressure off his heart. And she said, but the clot buster has to work. She said, we'll take him down, give him a CT in an hour or so to see, if it's working. She said, he doesn't qualify for the procedure now, he has to be on the clot buster and then break it up or something like that. Break up the clots. Apparently they weren't little clots. They must have been big ones. She said, if the clot buster doesn't work, we can't do the procedure. And the procedure, and this is what she did, she said, and the procedure is the last ditch effort. If we can't do the procedure on him, there's nothing else we can do for him. So I'm signing a paper, the anesthesiologist, I'm signing a paper, because in the meantime, they did not have his medical power of attorney on file. They did not have his living will on file. It is in the WVU medicine system. It was just at UHC and they couldn't access it. So my daughter, she did get out of her holla, because she has a big old Ram, 4-wheel drive truck. Not that that's the best thing in deep snow, but better than, So she did get out. My son called her, said, can you go by Mom's? And I told him where to look. And she found it. She took pictures of it and sent up to him. And that was good enough for them to recognize that I was his medical power of attorney. Otherwise, they would have appointed, that they were talking about appointing, a medical power of attorney or something right then. They said, well, since you're here, it'll probably be you anyway. And I said, but I am his medical power of attorney. It was this whole thing. Anyway, got that to him. So then I was recognized as his medical power of attorney. So they came in, and he had a nurse there. She was so good. Young, smart, quick, you know, it communicated, empathized. She was awesome. And as my son pointed out, she had a nice butt. So, a little humor in here. So she said they had to unhook all those machines that went on battery power. They put the bag, you know, every now and then. And I said, "Are you going to squeeze that bag?" And one of them turned around. She said, "He is breathing on his own. Remember, we told you. It's just we assist him." And I said, "Oh yeah, okay." And she said, "We're taking him down for the CT to see if the clot busting medicine is working." And this was the crucial moment, you know, was that medicine working? And it was like, I don't know, half hour or so. Brought him back up. And she said, "It's working," which meant he qualified for that last ditch procedure that they were going to do on him. I said, "Oh my gosh." Yeah. And it was not too long after that, they had to hook him all back up. And like an hour later, they had to unhook him all again because he was been taken down for that procedure. And it was 2 hours. So they said about 2 hours for the procedure. What they do is they go, it's like a heart cath. They do the same thing. They go in the arteries in the groin and go up through that way. And I guess all I could think of was they had a little vacuum in there and they were just sucking up all the little blood clot. Because of clot buster, that would make it, you know, break up and be smaller or liquefy or something. And all I could see him running a little vacuum cleaner. That's all I could imagine. You know, your mind just does crazy things. So, anyway, my son and I hadn't eaten since very early, and it was like 2 o'clock. So we went down to the cafeteria, or actually, yeah, we were on the 5th floor, cafeteria on the 4th floor, so we went down. We had something to eat. 50 cents an ounce for food in the cafeteria. 50 cents an ounce. An ounce of salad costs the same as an ounce of steak. I'm just saying. I just had to throw that in there. Incredulity of it all. 50 cents an ounce for food. But I guess they got to figure out some way to do it to make it simple. Anyway, we got done. We went back up into the waiting room because, you know, you have to buzz in to ICU, and he wasn't there. No need to go in there. So we were in the waiting room. And then I went back. It had been 2 hours, and I went back. I went up to the reception desk that's up there, and I said, "I haven't heard anything. You know, can I get an update? Nobody's come out to let me know, you know, the you know, how much longer or what." Ended up, he was coming out, and they were bringing him back up to his room, and they would come get us. In the meantime, I'm on the phone to my chiropractor, canceling my appointment for the following day, telling him, you know, what was going on. And they came out while I was on the phone, and I said, "Okay, I gotta go, Doc." Yes. We went in. They were hooking him back up, and I said, "Well, you know," and his nurse, the one that had been with him the whole time, she said, "It worked." She said, "His heart is already getting relief." She said, "We've already taken him off one of the medications that was assisting his heart." And she said, I said, "Did they get it all?" She said, "Oh yeah, they have to get it all." She said, "They got it all." And then she looked at me and my son. She goes, "You want to see it?" They had a depiction of it, you know, I don't think it was a real picture, you know, because lungs, it looked like, you know, a drawing of a set of lungs. And then they had where the blood clots were. I don't know if it was superimposed or what. I don't know how they did it. I explained to people, I said, it looked like one of those maps in the disaster movies where the virus has escaped and they do those projection maps with all the little red dots. That's what I said it looked like. I said it had all these little red dots. I said, "What happened to one clot?" And I think she said something about the clot buster. So anyway, or the 2 clots, you know, one on each side. And it was just a whole bunch in there. They got it all. She said, "Yeah." She said, "We fully expect to get him off of his heart assisting drugs, you know." And then a little while later, she said, "We took him off another one." So he was only on one. So he was doing well. And I said, her name was Lena. I said, Lena, is he out of the woods? She said, yeah. Pretty sure. She said, yeah. She said, I think it's safe to say that he is out of the woods. He's out of immediate danger. She said, he's still very sick, but he's out of immediate danger. And I said, I hate to say this. I said, but there's nothing I can do for him. He's asleep. He doesn't even know I'm here. I had gone up to him. I had kissed him. I had, stroked his forehead. I had hugged him and told him I was there. I had talked to him. All the things that you do, even though someone can't hear you. And I said, there's nothing I can do here. I said, I can't stay here. I said, and my son needs to go back to work tomorrow. I said, we need to leave. It was already dark when we left. And on the way back, we hit worse snow. Oh my, out of Morgantown. It's about an hour drive, but it took us like an hour and a half, because half the time I think my son was only driving like 25 maybe, using the guardrail to judge where the road was, because it was a snow squall. It started like over halfway home, and it got worse. And about 7 miles from home, it was horrible whiteout. It was whiteout. At one point, it was blowing so hard, we couldn't. I said, how are you even seeing? He said, I'm just checking to see if I can see a center line. He said, I'm watching the guardrail. And it was a single line of traffic with red lights, and whoever was in front was pulling all of us behind them, And we finally he made it home. He got me home, and I said, dear God, just be careful going home. I said, text me when you get there. And he texted me that he had made it home. So that's my story. The update is, the next day, he got his tube removed. They gave him a phone so he could call me. But after that, nobody could call in. He couldn't call out. I had to call in, something like that. And the next day, Friday, this all happened on Wednesday, and then Friday he got moved to step down, and he was still on oxygen up his nose, and he's on a new blood thinner for don't know how long, and he had to stay up there. He contracted a virus, and they said it was a flu virus, but he didn't act sick. And he should have been sick, or they should, I don't know. It seemed like they should have been a little more concerned about a flu, given the fact his lungs had already been compromised. But I guess it was a flu, but not a bad flu. I don't know. But they had a mask order on the room. But he got out of there. He got out of step down. He was waiting for a place. He had to go into a nursing home. But, for the skilled nursing facility is what a nursing home is, what they call them now. And they're just for rehabilitation, to build his strength back up, because it just took him down to the ground, He couldn't walk by himself. They had to hold on to him while he was holding on to a walker to get him to the bathroom. But he got moved to that facility, and apparently today he took to it like a duck to water. He wants to get out of there. He's walking with a walker. I talked to the director of nursing. She's a nurse there too. I talked to the social worker on his case. They said he's just the progress he's made, and he's not even on oxygen. And I thought he was supposed to be on oxygen for a month. Apparently not, but his oxygen stats are good. And so they said that they'll try to keep him there for a week if, our insurance will pay for it. But once the insurance gets a report that how well he's doing, they may want him discharged. But anyway, that's the story. My husband was at death's door, and he said, not today. His 76-year-old body pulled back literally from the brink of death. And a few days ago, I called down to the emergency squad that first transported him. And I told him the story, and he said, I remember that call, because I didn't even think they would take him, because, I thought maybe they were only taking emergencies. And little did we know that this was an emergency. And I told him the story. I said, you tell those young people, because they were all so very young, so very young. I said, you tell them that they were the first step in saving my husband's life. If they had said, no, we're only taking emergencies, I said, he would have died, because the hospital, Morgantown, which is J.W. Ruby Memorial Hospital, they said, when he went up, he said he came up here Tuesday, he would have died either that night or the next morning had he just stayed home. So I am considering myself very lucky. I don't like to say blessed, because I saved that for other things. But I do know that my husband, I hope that he takes this and into his mind and takes better care of himself, and not go around people that have, that are sick like he did. They said they looked for other underlying causes. They said cancer maybe. And I said, well, he's really lazy. He doesn't move around. I said, he only gets up from one place to go sit in another place. And she said the severity of it, they had to be caused by something else rather than a sedentary lifestyle. But they didn't find anything. So I'm going to tell him, I said, you need to move, and you need to move a lot, Anyway, that's my story, and I'll bring you an update once he's out of the facility, and he's, he has several doctor's appointments to go to. He now has what are they calling it? A pulmonary hypertension specialist that he has to go see. And they said he needs to go back to his cardiologist, which he only ever went to before, just to be cleared for, I forget what they were going to do to him. It may have, I don't know what it was. I don't know what why he had to have a clear for that. But anyway, I'll bring you an update. In the meantime, I may turn my camera back on and show me cleaning up this mess. What a mess. I may try to get my camera propped up higher. I tried